Welcome back to Trials and Triumphs, the podcast where we explore the real life stories of everyday people walking through hardship and found strength and healing and purpose on the other side. Today's guest is Ekam Wehi, and her story is a beautiful blend of faith, family, heartbreak, and new beginnings. Ekam is born in India, raised in Canada, and she grew up in a Sikh household faced with enormous pressure when she chose to follow Jesus Christ and joined the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Despite opposition from her family, she stepped forward in faith, not knowing the challenges that lay ahead. It was in the church where she met her first husband, and soon after faced the pain of divorce that would test her spiritually, emotionally, and personally. Yet through that pain, Ekam held on to the faith that had guided her from the beginning. Today she lives in Australia with her new husband and their 4-month-old daughter. She's an entrepreneur and assistant director at the Montessori Childcare Center, and she's someone who carries light wherever she goes. In this conversation, Ekam opens up about her conversion, heartbreak, and unexpected beauty that can follow even the most difficult chapters. Ekam, welcome to the show.
Hello. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
Good.
So as we set the stage for those who are listening in, can you tell us about your early life and background? Let us get to know who you were.
So obviously I was born in India and I came here when I was 10. So my family had a huge role in my life at that point. I was just this new girl in Canada and was going to high school, so I had to make new friends and stuff, and it was great because I had really good friends who had a good influence in my life at that point. When I was young, I worked with my parents at like a flea market. They had like a business there, so I would go every weekend. Every weekend that my friends wanted to go out, I would be like, "Oh, sorry guys, I have to work. Like, can't go anywhere." So I worked for like 10 years of my life every weekend since I was 10 years old. So that was really cool, but I think it made a really, really big impact in my life and gave me a good head start in business and stuff. So I think that was really good for me. Plus, I was able to find one of my biggest my biggest strengths right now is the gospel in my life. So I was able to join the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints when I was pretty young, and that set the stage for my life and how I would be. And I feel like if I hadn't found that in my life, I would be a totally different person. I would not be who I am today. I would be like some druggie on a street or something totally like into alcohol and drugs and stuff like that. I would not be who I am today, for sure.
Whoa. As you look at this dynamic a little bit, I mean, you mentioned that your family's from India and you joined the church. I know we're not going to talk a lot about this, but tell me briefly about what that experience was like, shifting from moving to a new culture and a new dynamic of coming to Canada, but also then taking on this added layer of transformation or change of joining and accepting Jesus Christ.
It was difficult for sure. Like, moving to Canada wasn't so hard. It was really nice because I hadn't seen my dad in like years, and so it was really nice to be with my dad and my mom in the same house. And I actually enjoyed coming to Canada. It wasn't a bad thing. It wasn't a big hurdle for me to make friends because I'm pretty social, so I was able to make friends pretty quick. But joining the church was a huge trial on its own, because my parents are so strongly Indian and very religious. So me trying to tell them that I want to be a Christian was not going to happen. But I was able to foster up the courage to just slip it out and be like, "Hey, so I want to get baptized." And they were not happy at all. But it was a really difficult thing. And now that I'm a parent, I understand like what they might have felt at that time, trying to raise they're your children in a specific religion and giving them values and morals and stuff, and your child comes up to you and be like, hey, I want to do something completely different than what you taught me, is like a shock to you. And because they're Indian, they're very dramatic. So us Indians get very over dramatic and turn things out to be at the height that it's not supposed to be. So, but it affected them so much that it was affecting their life, and they were getting depressed over it and stuff. So it was really hard to kind of navigate that part of my life. But I was able to do it eventually, which kind of leads into like my marriage, my first marriage, because I eloped the first time. I didn't tell anybody. My parents were totally against the church, and they were totally against me being anywhere near the church. So, and I liked this guy from church and stuff. And so I was like, well, the only way this is going to happen is if I leave and just show up the next day and be like, hey, sorry, I just married someone from the church you completely hate. But eventually, because my parents are so loving and they're so kind and they're so understanding, even though it was really, really hard and really difficult, they finally like came to an acceptance and were like, you know what? It's okay. Like my dad even apologized to me. He's like, you know, if I had just let you get baptized, maybe we would have had like a stronger relationship, and you wouldn't have had to like, you know, run away and get married and take that huge step on your own. So it was really nice and healing, but eventually I was able to overcome that part of my life. So we're good now. With the gospel in my life, it's been great. My dad actually came to my second wedding, and it was amazing. Like he was very, very supportive and very helpful, and I couldn't have done it without their support this time around, to be honest.
That's so awesome. Thanks for sharing that. I think we got a pretty good snapshot of you, of how you came to be to where you are now, but especially before your adversity and trial. For you, Ekam, what was the significant trial that you faced in your life that you want to discuss today?
So I went through a pretty nasty divorce. I mean, it wasn't as nasty as like some people go through after having kids and like, you know, multiple properties together and stuff, but it was it was the hardest thing I've ever gone through in my life. So it was really, really difficult. So I was hoping to discuss that, and hopefully if somebody else is going through something like that, they can find some hope through my journey.
Yeah. So walk us through, I guess, how did this challenge impact you initially?
So it was difficult. Like, just to give you guys like I don't want to like hate on my ex or whatever at this point. It just doesn't matter. But to give you like a little bit of context, there was a lot of like emotional abuse involved, and lying and manipulation at the end of my relationship with him. And so my initial reaction, my initial um, feelings were just like depression. I went into so much depression, and I was anxious all the time. Like it would affect me negatively. I got like obsessive over, you know, where is my husband? What is he doing? Like, why isn't he answering my phone? Who's he texting? It like affected me so negatively because of all the emotional abuse going on at that point, and manipulation that was happening from his end, that I was so down in the dumps. Like, I cannot imagine being there again. Like, it was so depressing that, you know, at times I even had like thoughts of harming myself, and like, you know, having all these negative thoughts come into my head. Like, am I really important? Am I really worth anything? Am I the cause of everything? Am I am I the reason why things are going wrong? What did I do? I got obsessive over trying to figure out what I was doing wrong. And it really affected my mental health. And my mental health declined so hard at that point.
Yeah. So I guess walk us through. So you were happily married. How do you go from I eloped and got happily married and my parents have accepted my marriage to we're now looking at a divorce? I guess walk us through that.
So in my point of view, we were pretty good. We had a happy marriage. We laughed together, played together. Everything was good up until like 2 months before we separated. And I just couldn't figure out why some things were happening. All of these things just came up all of a sudden, and I was totally blindsided. And there was infidelity involved in this whole thing. So I was not feeling okay with it because I felt like I was competing against something that I shouldn't be competing against. And so anxiety just took over me. And from that point on, it was just a downhill battle for a while. But it was a total surprise. Like I had no idea what was going on until I knew what was going on. Something in my heart was telling me that something wasn't right. And I kept listening to it, but I kept blaming myself and my anxiety and not actually listening to my gut and being like, okay, there is something going on here. I got to figure out what it is. But I just kept blaming myself over and over again. It was really difficult. But until I knew what was happening, it was just a terrible situation to be in.
That's rough. Along this journey, were there any turning points or pivotal moments?
Yeah, so like I had so many good friends that I relied on heavily. You were one of them. I think I messaged you pretty much very quickly and I was like, "Hey, like I don't have any friends to talk to about this. Can we just like chill and just discuss this?" And it was really nice to come and talk to you, but I had a lot of other people that reached out to me and were very, very supportive at the time. And honestly, I don't think I could have done this without them. There were so many moments where I was just so down. And I'm sure people who go through like divorce and stuff can relate to how it feels because you've built a life with somebody and you've trusted somebody for so long. And then all of a sudden you're doubting that trust and you're doubting everything. And so I was pretty down in the dumps and I had actually stopped working completely. Like I was running such a nice business that was getting really, I was getting a lot of like response with my business and stuff. And it was nice. And honestly, immediately just stopped. I stopped going to work. I stopped doing everything and I was just staying in my room all day. And if it wasn't for people checking in on me, calling me like every 10 minutes sometimes and staying on the phone with me for 2 to 3 hours at a time, and just talking to me and telling me that I wasn't going crazy, um, I don't think I would have done it without them. But um, it was really nice because in that moment I was also able to like reflect on God and my relationship with Him because prior to that, I was kind of going down this road where I was like questioning some things. I wasn't totally like against anything. I was still going to church. I was still praying. I was still reading scriptures and everything I could do to stay faithful. But there were questions coming in my head before my relationship started breaking apart. And so I had a lot of time to reflect on my relationship with God. And that was amazing because if I hadn't gone through this, I don't think I would have been able to feel the way I wouldn't have been able to feel how Jesus Christ felt about me. I wouldn't have been able to discover that for myself, and I wouldn't have been able to discover his true nature, which was really, really nice. So I feel like people and God really kind of kept me together in that moment. And I feel like I couldn't go down any deeper than I was. And I had just hit rock bottom, so to say. And like, I could only feel myself lifted by people around me and by God and Jesus Christ in my life. Like, I couldn't have been able to do it without those two things.
That's really powerful. Thanks for sharing your testimony there on what has really helped you. I think that's really beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
As we pivot here just slightly, I'm intrigued to hear if you discovered any skills or passions along the way of dealing with this adversity.
It was actually really cool, because, I was going through so much mental health issues and stuff at the time, and I was pretty down in the dumps about my health and stuff like that. So obviously, with a little bit of encouragement from other people, I was able to focus a little bit on my health. And so I just started working out a little bit here and there at the gym. And it was really hard to, because I didn't want to get out of bed. But um, I pushed myself to go, and I think I really enjoyed it. I loved going to the gym because it was a place where I could just be by myself and with my thoughts, but also be doing something to release all that anger and the frustration and anxiety and stuff. It was really nice. And I fell in love with weightlifting. It was so amazing because I didn't like, I'd go to the gym and I'd be able to like watch these people like, deadlift, and they'd be able to like bench and squat and stuff. And I'd be like, yeah, I can't do that. Every time I would go to the gym, I'd just hit the treadmill and that was it. And I'd be out. But I challenged myself to like do these other things that allowed me to gain strength. And when I challenged myself to do those things, I fell in love with weightlifting. Like, it's been amazing. And um, I am so excited to go back into it. I've started to like slowly go back into after giving birth. And I just can't wait to get back to where I was and start from there again.
That's really incredible. It's cool to see how an experience like this helped you to become better and shape yourself in a way that you probably wouldn't have otherwise. So really cool to see that weightlifting came out of your divorce. Like, I don't know if I would be like, cool, I want to get into weightlifting. Let me go get a divorce. But
No,
it's
that was not my
cool to
initial,
see.
it wasn't my initial thing. That's not what I really wanted to do, but I got into it and it was just so empowering, and it was so like, it made me want to continue because it made me feel strong. I didn't have control in my life because everything was happening to me at that point. I didn't know what my ex was doing. I didn't know why it was
Mhm.
happening. I couldn't control the situation as much as I tried. But when I went to the gym, I feel like there was something that I could control, and that was my health and my mental health. And so when I did all that stuff, I felt back in control. Every time I would like work out really hard and I would feel my heart pumping, I would be like, oh my goodness, like I'm alive and this is amazing because I have a heart and I'm good and I'm loved. And it would just be like an amazing experience and super empowering.
That's really incredible. Would you say in some of like your hardest days that working out and hitting the gym helped you overcome them?
Absolutely. Some of my hardest days, I went to the gym and I pushed myself and my anger and my frustration onto the weights. And honestly, on those days, I could probably do double the weight that I usually do. It was amazing. And because I just released all that adrenaline, and it was great. And it helped me so much mentally to see my progress, despite everything else that was happening in my life.
That's exceptional. Thanks for sharing, Ekam. As
Absolutely.
we pivot from the hidden skills section and passions, let's talk about what steps you took to overcome the adversity you faced. Like, how did you overcome it?
Like I said, there was a lot of like people that helped me get back into it, but I also took upon myself to like, I could tell three things were happening. I was not doing well emotionally, and my mental health was deteriorating, and that was affecting my health overall. And it was affecting my work, and it was affecting my finances. It was affecting everything. And so I was like, I know that I have anxiety and depression and all these thoughts. I need to do something about it. Um, and so I went into counseling, and I did like therapy, and I talked to professionals. I went to my bishop in our church. You could, have a lot of support and help if you go to your leaders and just discuss with them what's going on in your life, and they can help connect you to like resources and people and professionals who can guide you through your um, depression and anxiety and whatever you might be facing at the time. So I went to my bishop, and I was like, "Hey, I'm struggling, and I think I need to work on my mental health, and I need some counseling, and I need some therapy." So they allowed me to get in touch with professionals that were able to help me just understand why my brain was acting the way it was acting. Sometimes why I would feel anxious, why I would feel these negative thoughts, and just it just gave me a different perspective. It helped me to step outside my body and be like, it's okay, because your brain is just trying to protect you at this time. And so it's okay to feel anxious, but along with that, I also got like really cool ways to like handle anxiety and deal with uh, the thoughts that come into my head, how I could divert them. And it was really good, along with working out at the gym. Going to counseling was like one of my favorite things at the time, because I was able to really open up and just see what another professional had to say about my situation and my mental health, and help me go through everything I was battling with.
That's really cool. Was there anything that you learned in therapy that you wanted to share that could help someone going through something very similar right now?
Um, you know, I feel like so many women sometimes start to blame themselves for things that are happening in their life. And um, one of the things that I learned through one of my counseling sessions is to really focus on what would happen if what you're thinking would happened, if that makes sense. Like, what would be the worst case scenario? Okay, so go through it in your head. What could you do if the worst case scenario came to pass? What steps would you take at that time? So it was more like plan ahead. Planning ahead kind of gave me like a sense of like, you know what? Even if the worst thing I think is going to happen happens, I have a plan, and so I don't need to be anxious. So a lot of the times, I think our bodies feel this anxiety and depression because it's trying to protect us from something that might come our way that we're not prepared for. And so the counselors really helped me to get prepared for those things. And so once I was prepared for those things, my mind wasn't as bothered by anxious thoughts of a potential future that was coming. But there were still many triggers and stuff that I had to overcome from all the mental, emotional, and physical abuse that I had gone through. And so obviously that took time and healing on its own. And one of the things that I really love about the counselors that are provided to us through the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is that you have an option to talk to somebody who will talk to you through your faith and involve God in that healing process. And so I really enjoyed doing that because my counselors would always encourage me to seek help from God in those moments when I'm triggered, when there's no sensible answer to my feelings. At the point is to always involve God and seek His hand in my life. And so when I decided to do that, it completely like changed my view. And actually, I want to share this one more thing real quick. One of my really good friends, she lives in Fargo, North Dakota, and she is so awesome. And she would be like always on me every day. She would call me every day. She would text me and see how I was doing. And because she had gone through divorce herself in the past, and one of the things that she told me was really, really cool, because I would always call her and she would ask me, like, for instance, she would be like, "How are you feeling today?" And I would be like, "I'm okay, but I'm feeling a little anxious and I'm feeling a little down or depressed." And she said, "Ekam, I want you to do one thing." And I was like, "What is it?" She said, "I want you to change the way you form your sentences. I want you to stop saying, 'I'm okay, but I'm feeling this negative thing.'" She said, "I want you to put the negative thing first and then focus on the positive thing." Because when we say, like, "I'm okay, but this," you're giving more power to the negative aspect of your feelings. And so she said, instead of saying, like, that, you could say, "I'm feeling a little down, but I'm okay." And so it helps you focus your mind. It helps you rewire your mind into thinking, "I'm good, I'm grateful, despite what's happening in my life." So once I started doing that, it actually really, really helped my depression. It helped my anxiety. It helped me to focus better on good things. It was really awesome.
What a powerful way to shift your thoughts and mentality from a negative energy to a positive resolve.
Mm-hmm.
I love that. I think you've also mentioned to me the power of gratitude. Do you want to talk a bit about that?
Yeah, like just going along with what I just shared is just focusing on like the good in your life. I accepted a challenge from um, one of the apostles in our church, and they shared, they invited us to focus more on gratitude in your life. And when I started seeking the hand of God in my life a little bit more, I was able to be more grateful for the things that I had rather than the things that were slipping away or the things that I didn't have in that moment. It made me feel grateful for my health. It made me feel grateful for my family who was fighting for me and with me despite having, run away and got married without their permission. They were amazing, and it helped me to focus more on like my family bonds and stuff like that, and focus on what's more important in life. So gratitude really filled my heart with love when it was seeking for that love and attention from somebody else, and I wasn't getting it. So gratitude really helped fill my heart with a lot of love for others and for my situations and for all the things that I had in my life.
I love that. It it's the human experience to look at the lack, what's missing, what's not great. But it's what gratitude is what shift us to see what is loving and what is really good about our life and change that perspective. And not necessarily saying
Absolutely.
that we don't change the things that are bad in our life, but it helps us embrace the things that are good and focus on those things and to live a higher quality of life.
Absolutely. Absolutely. 100%.
I think one of the things you also mentioned to me about this time is the role that the temple played. Is that something that you wanted to talk about?
Yeah, like I for those who might not know, but like our church has temples as well where we can go and worship and just feel a little bit closer to God. And so I love going to the temple. And because I wasn't working and I wasn't going anywhere, I wasn't doing anything, and I was like, you know what? Might as well invest some time in the temple. Let's just go and see how it is. And the first day I went, I all the negative energy that I had, all the negative thoughts that I had just like paused at the door as I went in. And then when I went in for the 2.5 hours or so at the time, I just felt so light. Um, it was an amazing experience. And so once I walked out the door, I was like, oh, I wish I could just stay in there for a little bit longer. So I was like, you know what? It's okay. I'll come back tomorrow. So I came back the next day, and then I came back the day after, and then I came back the day after, because it was just a place where I could find so much peace, and I could just kind of let go of everything and feel at peace with God there. And it's interesting, and it's a little funny, but I wasn't sleeping either because of my depression and anxiety and stuff. Like I wasn't eating or sleeping, and it was just really hard to go to sleep. But once I'd go into the temple, I would be like so tired sometimes that I'd like fall asleep on a chair. And I would be like, it sounds funny, but at that time, it was so nice and it was so important to me that it was just really nice to be able to just get some shut eye and be able to feel at peace and not be scared of like, what I'm going to dream about or how I'm going to feel when I wake up or whatever it is. So it provided so much peace and also like just gave me so much understanding of who I was and what my worth is in the sight of God, and focus on that and not let one situation in your life kind of bring you down, and help me to push past uh, the trial that I was facing. It was beautiful. Like I absolutely love the temple. There was even this one experience where I had woken up and I was so anxious. This was like right dead in the middle of my separation, and I was like crying uncontrollably. I did not know what was going on. I couldn't understand where life was headed, and I was just so upset and so depressed. I was crying and I was like, you know what? I'm going to go to the temple. And the temple was closed that day. It was Mondays. Mondays, temples are usually closed. And so I just stood outside in the parking lot. And I remember just crying and crying and asking Heavenly Father to like, just please let me feel that peace. Please let me feel that peace. And literally, I kid you not, 2 seconds later, I passed out in the car. Like, I just fell asleep. And I woke up an hour later and I was like, what am I doing here? And I was like, oh yeah, I remember I've had a pretty crappy morning, but just that 1 hour of sleep was so amazing. Right after my prayer, it was great, and it was able to give me energy to kind of just get about my day for the rest of the day until I could come back to the temple the next day. It was amazing. So the temple played a huge role in my life at that moment.
That's really cool. Walk us through how you went through the divorce and how you've triumphed, and now you're in your second marriage with a 4-month-old baby.
It's been an amazing ride. Like, honestly, I never thought, uh, a lot of women also go through divorce, and they're usually the most scared thought you have is like, I'm going to be alone and I have to go back into dating. Like, what is that? Especially now in Toronto, like, who who is eligible like to date? It's crazy the amount of people that are just looking for the wrong thing. And it was funny because right after my separation, I wasn't even divorced yet. There were so many people just messaging me and they were like, "Hey, how are you?" It's like they had like this Facebook group or something, and people were like, "Yo, Ekam's available. Let's go." And everybody was just like, "Hey, how are you? Do you want to meet up?" Like, and I'm like, I haven't talked to you in like ages, and you all of a sudden just want to meet up. Like, there were a lot of people who were kind of very nice about it, even though they wanted to like hang out and stuff as friends, and that was really nice. But there was just so many, anyways. But that was like my greatest fear in the beginning, where I was like, once I got over my emotional distress with my ex, I was like, oh man, I have to date again. Like, I don't know if I'm ready for that. I don't know if I'm okay with that. I don't know what it's gonna look like. And but shortly after, I started talking to my now husband, who I met on a mission. He served his mission in Canada, and this was previous to my first marriage, but I had a huge crush on him at that point. He was like this cute Australian missionary, and I was like, oh man, he's so cute. And I always liked him, and I always wanted to get to know him, but he lived all the way in Australia. And then when he came back home, I was dating somebody and got married. And so we never got to explore that aspect. But I just started talking to him, and we hit it off, and he was like, well, I really want to see you. And so I booked a flight to Sydney, and I was like, hey, you know what, we're gonna look at how this goes. And so I went to Sydney, I met him, and he was obviously amazing, and he was a great part of my healing. Because yes, it was pretty quick. I got divorced, and then the next year I was married after. And so it was really quick, but I have felt so much more comfortable in my relationship with him. I have felt more loved. I felt more beautiful, and I felt more supported in this relationship than I ever had before. And it was just something so beautiful that came out of something so difficult. Where one time I couldn't even imagine having to leave my ex and starting life over, and what life would look like. And we had been trying to have a baby for like 5 years, me and my ex, and nothing was happening. And I got married to my now husband when we were pregnant in like a month. And it was amazing. Like, it's all these like wonderful blessings that have come out of something, have preceded something so crappy. They didn't come out of it, but they preceded something so hard in my life. And it's just a testament that, God really cares about those who are faithful to him, those who love him. In fact, like, he really cares about all his children. And so when we show our appreciation and our love and our dedication to him, he will quickly bless us with so many wonderful things that we will not have room enough to receive it, And I really felt like that with my life, because my husband is like the best person ever. And I'm so grateful for him. I don't think I could life without him anymore. And so I'm just so grateful for what came after such a rainy and cloudy day. It was definitely beautiful.
Thanks, Ekam. As you look back at this entire experience, what have been some of the biggest lessons you've learned?
Man, there's so many things that I've learned through this whole thing. But I think one of the greatest lessons that I've learned is like, everybody has agency to do what they want in their life. And like, we can't control everything that happens, but what we can control is ourselves. And we can control our own mental health. We can control what happens if something bad happens to us. What would we do? And that is the most empowering, most like greatest thing you could do for yourself. There were obviously so many like cautionary steps that I had to take remarrying somebody so quickly, right? And it was just so scary. And I would always think in my head, like, oh my gosh, what if what happened before happens again? What if I'm trusting this person, but I can't trust them? Like, what if they break my trust because I trusted my first husband? Like, all these thoughts would come into your head. And I think the biggest thing that I could get from my experience is like, crap happens in life. Like, life can go downhill at any time. The one steady thing that will never leave you is yourself and Heavenly Father and God. It all depends on Him and you at the end. So yes, there's a chance of, like, something happening later in life that I might not be prepared for, but I am now prepared because I trust in God, and I look after myself. I know how to rebuild myself. I know how to work on myself. And that is the greatest thing you can do for yourself, is to show up for yourself and show up with God by your side.
I love that. As we wrap up, I have one last question for you. In what ways have your values and priorities changed because of your experiences?
Oh yeah, like my values, my priorities have like shifted so much. Before it was all about like, somebody else, and it was all about what I was going through, and like the things and the storms in my life and all that stuff. And my priority right now, and always should be, myself first, because I need to be 100% before I could give anything to anybody else. And you know, I'm so grateful for what I went through and what I've been through, and as crappy as it was, it's really taught me that my family, and my friends who are good to me and always uplift me and stuff will always be there for me. And I need to put more effort into those relationships that foster that care and that positive environment for me to thrive in. And so definitely first put in all your effort for yourself and your mental health and stuff, and then in turn after put in effort into your relationships, and put in effort into your relationship with God, and then all things fall into place after. That is one great thing that I could tell anybody who might be going through this, is like, hold on. It gets better, but you need to put yourself first. And you need to put those who are bringing you up, those who are helping you get out of something really bad, put your energy into them afterwards.
As cheesy as this sounds, what I'm getting is the image of when you get on a plane and they tell you, put your face mask on first, then help the other person.
Yes, exactly. Put the oxygen mask on yourself before you assist others. For sure. But don't forget to assist others either, because that's important.
I love that. Well, Ekam, thank you so much for sharing your journey with us today, helping us understand the experiences that you had and for us to learn.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me on this podcast. It was really cool.
What a tender experience and story from Ekam. Her journey from a Sikh upbringing and embracing Jesus Christ, walking through divorce, and finding love and purpose again is a beautiful reminder that the Lord doesn't abandon us in our trials. He walks with us through them. Ekam's resilience, her faith, and her willingness to start over with God at the center of her life is truly inspiring. If this conversation moved you, please share it with a friend and leave a review to help others find these powerful stories of faith and healing. Thank you so much for tuning in to Trials and Triumphs. This podcast will be back soon with more incredible guests. Until then, keep going, keep believing, and remember, every trial brings its own triumph.